it's not necessarily how much you earn, but it's rather how much you can keep. It's rather how much cash flow do you have. It's rather how much money do you have left over at the end of the month. Because a lot of people have this mindset of, I'll save when I make more money. I don't make enough money to save. If you can't save on a $50,000 income, what makes you think you're going to save when you making six figures? Because 40% of earners, I think that's the number, 40% of six figure earners are living check to check. And that comes from lifestyle inflation, which is one of the biggest wealth killers. Here's how it is. Once you get a bigger raise or once you start making more income, by the way, the goal is to increase your income every year. Once you do that, you buy, those people might, they get sucked into this consumerism trap because they got more money. They're taking more fancier vacations. They're buying a more expensive car, which leads to a higher car note. They're moving to a fancier apartment, which leads into higher monthly rent. They move into a bigger home, which leads into a bigger monthly mortgage cost, or a house note, as my parents call it, or what some people like to call it. And they're going out to eat more. They're going to these luxurious restaurants. They're at the mall, buying all these the designer outfits. Which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to treat yourself after you got a raise, but also you need to allocate some of that money towards your savings. The more money you make, the more money you should save, and then with the money you have left over, you should, and you want to, go spend on something nice, but pay cash for it. Because I'm all for looking nice, but at what expense? If I gotta get into debt for it, if I gotta finance it, and then you wake up, you realize, wow, where's all my money going? You got this big income, but you can't even save. That's why it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. Yeah, you should want to focus on increasing your earnings too. Yes, I understand that. Also, you need to focus on, where's my money going? How can I save? Because the six figure earners who are living check to check, some of them people don't even have an emergency fund. Some of them people can't even cover a $1,000 expense. You know, they making more than six figures or just at the six figure mark. I think about that, I'm like, wow. But that's what happens when we increase our lifestyle instead of increasing our contributions to our savings. Now, I believe that you could do both, of course, if you got the money for it. But first, you need to pay yourself first. I pay myself first by investing in my company's 401k. Continue putting some money every month or every 2 weeks, wherever I get paid, towards my emergency fund, and putting a good chunk of it into my Roth IRA. When I invested index funds, low cost index funds like the VOO, which tracks the S&P 500, and then NASDAQ, which tracks the 100 biggest tech companies, and VTI, which basically tracks the whole stock market, and the Dow Jones, the DJI, which tracks the 30 largest blue chip companies that have a long track record, and those who have been financially stable, those who have a long track record of being financially stable. You gotta pay yourself first, guys. You can't say I'm gonna save once I get a bigger income, because that's a lie. You're not. Because the more money you make, the more money you're gonna spend. It depends what type of mindset you have and what's your philosophy about money. If you were in debt at 50,000, you're gonna be in even bigger debt once you make over six figures, or once you make above that mark, or once your income increases, because you're going to continue to live on credit. You're going to continue to max out these credit cards. And this is why so many people don't build wealth, because of lifestyle inflation, lifestyle creep. That's why a lot of people don't build wealth, because they don't know how to pay themselves first. Some people don't even know what a Roth IRA is. Some people don't even know what it is. As soon as they get the money, they spending it. And they find themselves stressed out. They find themselves living check to check. They find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. They find themselves struggling even though they're making good money. For example, I don't make six figures. I make close to 40 or 50K a year. Would you say that? And then those people live paycheck to paycheck, but I'm able to save a good amount of my income. You guys get my point. A person who is making 50K could actually save more than a person who's making 100K. Well, some people might ask, well, how if that person has more money? Well, that person, yeah, they may be making more money, but it's what you do with your money that counts even more. Because you got to know how to earn it, you got to know how to keep it, and you got to know how to invest it, and you got to know how to save it. You got to know when to do it too. That's why you got to pay yourself first, even if it's just 10 to 20%. That's that's a good start. Because being a six-figure earner, living check to check, that would just never be me. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make six figures. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make a lot of money. But understand this: if you don't know how to manage it, to me, it's only going to create more problems. I don't believe in the saying, more money, more money, more money, more problems. But only if you know how to manage it. Because if you don't know how to manage 50K, you're definitely not gonna know how to manage 100K. You're definitely not gonna know how to manage making $200,000 a year. You won't know how to manage it, and it's gonna lead to more debt. It's gonna lead to more loans being taken out, and it's gonna lead to you making worse financial decisions. It's just gonna lead to stress. Because I think the number is 2 out of 5 Americans are stressed about money, and financial stress affects your mental health. But all that financial stress comes from you overspending. You gotta look at your spending habits. You gotta cut back in some areas. You gotta budget. That's the number one thing that can help you start to pay yourself very strong with that, is to create a budget. See where all your money is going. It's simple math, guys. Then once you do that, see how much you're bringing in. For example, let's say you making $800 every 2 weeks, and you want to save 10% of that. 10% of 800 is $80. You're doing that every week. That adds up. You do that over the course of 4 weeks, that's already $240. You could choose to put that in the stock market, or you could put that in your emergency fund. Ideally, you don't want to start investing until you have an emergency fund, because to me, an emergency fund is the foundation. Because before looking out for your future self, you got to make sure your current self is fine with the emergency fund, because life could happen at any moment. You could get laid off your job, your car might break down, you might have an unexpected medical bill, or just something might happen with family, whether something like that might require you to take time off work, and you're still gonna need some money to live off of until you're able to get back to work, you're able to get back going again. be honest, a emergency fund is not fear. It's a peace of mind knowing that when something happens to you, you're going to be fine. Your emergency fund might look different from everybody else, depending on how many dependents you have, if you're single, married, how many people live live with you and where you live, and if you have a rent or a mortgage or any of that. But the more money you make, the more money you should save. And then the money you have after that, then you could spend it. Then you could buy something nice. Then you could go on a fancy dinner if you want to. But don't increase your lifestyle, guys, just because you just got a raise. You 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 got a 5% raise, and now you increase your spending by 5%. You don't even have no money going towards savings, and that's why so many Americans can't even retire right now because they don't because of lifestyle inflation. That's why so many Americans can't even cover an emergency fund because of lifestyle inflation and because of their spending habits. I'm gonna say this again: it's not what you earn, it's what you keep, it's what you invest, it's what you save. Because so many people they get their check on Friday and they spend it. It's all gone Saturday morning. They're at the mall. They at fancy restaurants. They living it up, but don't even have no money allocated towards savings. A step further that our guys would recommend you doing is automating it. It's automating your savings and investments. Meaning as soon as it hits your account, you already have some money allocated. So that way you're not even thinking about it. So that way you're not even tempted to spend it. So that way that you don't gotta rely on willpower. People may ask, well, where should I keep my emergency fund? Separate from your checkings. Put it into a high yield savings so that way it's at least keeping up with inflation. And sometimes depending what the interest rate on your savings and what the inflation rate is, your money could grow above the inflation rate. Me personally, I like to keep my savings growing above the inflation rate. I'm not worried about my investments because investments, the SP 500 on average return 10%, and inflation is not 10%. Inflation surged in March from like 3.3%, which is pretty high. But even on my emergency savings, the interest rate on there is like 3.5. So my real interest rate is 0.2. So my money is gaining 0.2 value every year. And guys, another big wealth killer is car notes. People buying cars that they can't afford. You're buying too much car. You got a $1,000 car note. That's not even, and I even get to the maintenance, the gas, with gas prices rising and all that. It's just like, why do we continue to fall for the car note trap? Car notes are bad debt. Yes, they are. Because they're not going up in value. They won't make you more money. You can't leverage a car. Cars only depreciate. As soon as you drive off the lot, it goes down in value. Another wealth killer is credit card debt. Soon as you fail to pay the balance off in full, interest starts occurring. The interest starts to snowball. Then you look up and you're in $60,000 worth of credit card debt. Guys, it's not worth it. You guys need to pay your balance off in full and keep your credit utilization low. Keep it low. Ideally, you want to keep it under 30%, but to get the best score, keep it under 10%. Because guys, you guys need to build wealth. I'm not saying you guys need to have $1 million. Some people don't even need $1 million to survive. But just find your number and just save and invest and build wealth so that you could retire comfortably. Because always remember that money is just a tool. It's not the goal. It's just a tool that used to fund your lifestyle and that is used to build financial wealth. But you can't do that if you're in debt. You got all these credit cards. You're maxing out all these credit cards. You know, this credit card debt. You got all these car notes. You got all these car payments you got to make. And you keep increasing your lifestyle to the point where you haven't had no money allocated towards savings. But all the car notes and credit cards, they all come from lifestyle inflation, lifestyle creep. So in summary of this video, what you should do whenever you get or raise, whenever you start making more money, allocate even more money towards savings. Then with the money that you have left, then you're able to, then if you want to, pay cash for all the nice things that you want to do, because it's not worth going into debt for, guys. Debt is not it. So stay out of it and build wealth.